Okay, so today I'm gonna talk, but with no plan. Normally I have a plan when I'm filming this kind of sitting down talking video, but I feel like I've gotten so much, like so dependent on having a plan and having ideas that are already made that it kind of stops me thinking by myself, if that makes sense. But anyway, I wanted to go on here today and talk about being social. Also, just warning, I want to be honest with you. I'm still learning. There's so many things for me to still discover and so many things for me to improve on. Like, I'll be vulnerable. I'll share one thing that I'm having struggles with currently right now is that when I know to make the objective choice of saying no and, for example, going home and studying, but once I get the choice of going to the, let's say, for example, to the library and studying with my friends, even though I know that I would be less productive, I still choose that option. So the right thing for me to do was to say no and go home. But I'm currently working on that, so it's not always perfect. But I did want to talk today about being social. And also, I'm sorry that I'm speaking a little quieter. It's currently later in the evening, and I don't want to bother anyone. But I want to get through your heads that you don't have to be social to every person you meet. And let me ask you this. Are you social to people that you dislike? Are you social to people or are you only social to people that you like? So, for example, me personally, I have a rule that I try to stick with, that I'm nice to every person I meet and I have respect for everyone I meet unless they don't have respect for me. And even if they are mean to me, I'm not gonna go back and talk to them. Like, just ignore it. Just ignore it and just leave it. That's kind of how I go. But yeah, normally you should have respect for everyone. And there's a difference between basic human respect and decency with being nice, and then there's a difference between actually being not in awe but learning something from them and having respect for their actions. That's two different respects. Normally the one which is more deeper you have for family or closer friends that you want to learn from and want to understand, and the first sign of respect is normally to strangers. But what I'm saying is that in order to be social, let's start with the introverted and extroverted idea. I discussed previously on my video that the idea of being extroverted or introverted, which is built into us, was rooted into us, and we didn't even question it. So I always grew up thinking that it was like a genetic thing where you were either social, outgoing, or you were just quiet in your own corner, not doing anything. Comes out that this is something that you can control and build. So, for example, I would consider myself, I would used to consider myself to be introverted, where I didn't want to go out, I didn't want to go experience new things, I didn't want to talk to new people. But now I would consider myself extroverted. And yes, we are human. It depends on the day. There's days when we feel more outgoing, and these days depend on the small micro changes that you made on a daily basis, if that makes sense. So, for example, what determines a good day or what determines a bad day? When I really focused, I realized that the small changes in the morning could determine my day, and then that goes on to determine my mood, and then that goes on to determine if I'm feeling outgoing and I'm feeling better and more happier. So a micro change is, like, I wake up in the morning, and if I the first thing I do, if I grab my phone first thing in the morning, then that already puts me in a negative space. So just a tip, don't use your phone for within 30 minutes in the morning, and not because of, oh, this is how you be more productive, but it just generally makes you feel more clear and more controlled within yourself, because you restrict yourself from going on your phone. But the whole idea of being extroverted, this is something that you can build on and improve. You can do that by forcing yourself to talk to new people, asking them questions, complimenting them, smiling at them. And these micro changes that you make, these micro behavioral changes that you make, will then lead on to bigger changes within your subconscious mind that you won't even recognize, which will just affect, and then one day it will click, and basically you just have to be consistent, just like everything else. In everything you do, you just have to be consistent. Making micro changes will then make a macro change. So in order to be social, well, there's no hack like for anything. In order to be, oh, this is how you be social, or free ways to get social. No, there's no such thing as this. It's just practicing these micro consistent behaviors where you go out, like I said, compliment someone, make yourself do something that's out of your boundaries. We're constantly living in a comfortable space where we just don't want to go and push ourselves and make ourselves experience discomfort, because as humans, this is not what we want to experience. I noticed this within myself. I noticed that there are days, like I said, what I would consider, no, I don't necessarily have bad days. I just have days where I'm like neutral. And on these days, I feel like I don't really want to push myself. I want to do less. And what I would say to this is that it doesn't really matter how you feel, but you just have to write your to-do list and just do them. Because at the end of the day, when you go to bed, you know that you did what you had to do. And instead of regretting what you didn't do, you will just feel more fulfilled, and it'll build your self-confidence and your self-esteem, because you know that next time when this happens, you are able to actually do it. So I don't know how I went from the topic of how to be social to this, but I'm just saying that a lot of the things in our life are within our control. So if you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like you're not progressing, reason one is probably because you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone enough. Reason two is because there's a deeper problem rooted for that you're not analyzing. So okay, also I kind of want to talk about mood swings, because I used to never have them, but as I'm growing up a little, I tend to have them a bit more. So mood swings, like our overall state of internal emotion. A lot of the times we don't, okay, so as individuals, we know exactly when, or sometimes we don't actually. Sometimes we are not aware of when we are experiencing a different emotion, which will then affect our mood. And there are external factors to that which we don't even realize, because it happens on like a subconscious level. But you just have to remind yourself that yes, you may be aware, or sometimes you're not aware, but a lot of the times other people can see when your mood is switched. So think of an experience where you had with yourself where you knew that someone's mood switched and how that affected you. So it's like, why would the opposite not happen to you? So why would your mood swing not affect anyone else? Because in reality, they probably do. So you kind of have to get to the core of that and think of why my mood switched. I mean, a lot of times we don't even want to do that because it's too much self-awareness. I'll give you an example. Since I'm living with my brother now, when I talk to him, sometimes my mood switches, and I try to think of it, and I was like, why does my mood switch sometimes? And if I'm being honest with you, I still didn't really come to a conclusion. There probably is, but I just haven't thought about it enough. So I would have to sit down with myself and think of why does my mood switch so fast sometimes when I'm talking only with my brother. Like, this doesn't happen when I'm talking to the rest of my family members. So yeah, you would have to sit down with yourself and realize this and think about it. But anyway, I've been waffling on for too long, and it's getting quite late and I have to shower. But hopefully you learned something, and I'm still like, guys, I genuinely want to be honest with you. This probably is not benefiting me. This is not benefiting me by saying this, because I would want to make myself as intellectually wise as possible, but this is not the case. This is not the case. I have so much to learn and so much to improve about myself, and so do you, and probably that's why you're watching this video. But you learning and you watching this video will not do that. So yeah, you may learn something from this and you may educate yourself more, but that still means that you have to implement the action and synthesize what I've taught you and kind of implement it. Okay, anyways, bye. Hope you enjoyed the video.